Omm Sety, born Dorothy Louise Eady, January 16, 1904. Though she is known for much in her waking life, she is best remembered for her belief that she was a reincarnated priestess from ancient Egypt. In 1979, the New York Times described her life story as one of the Western world's most intriguing and convincing modern case histories of reincarnation. Dorothy was born in London in 1904 to a lower-class Irish family. At 3 years old, she fell down a flight of stairs and was pronounced dead. About an hour later, she was found sitting up, alive and well. She then started exhibiting strange behaviors, including asking to be brought home. She had much trouble in her early life, even being turned away from Sunday school for comparing Christianity with the heathenness ancient Egyptian religion. She was also expelled from a girls' school after refusing to sing a hymn that called on God to curse the swart Egyptians. She regularly attended Catholic Mass, which she enjoyed as it reminded her of the old religion. This too was eventually forbidden after a priest came to interrogate her parents. Still a young child, her parents took her to the British Museum, where she saw a photograph of the Temple of Seti I. Immediately she cried out, "This is my home!" But she was very confused at the state it was in, asking, "Where are all the trees? Where are the gardens?" She then ran through the Egyptian rooms amongst her peoples, kissing the feet of the statues. After this visit, she returned many times, often missing school to spend time learning or remembering hieroglyphs with local Egyptologist E.A. Wallace Budge, who was taken by her enthusiasm. At age 15, she described a nocturnal visit from the mummy of the pharaoh Seti I. During this time, she experienced nightmares and sleepwalking, which led her to being incarcerated in sanatoriums several times. Finally, officially leaving school at age 16, she continued her rigorous research of ancient Egypt, visiting many museums and archaeological sites around Britain. Several years later, in 1931, she moved to Egypt, kissing the ground upon arrival, announcing she had come home to stay. She married an Egyptian, Imam Abdel Mugwed. She'd met while working in London at an Egyptian public relations magazine. They had a son, named Seti, from which her name was derived, Omm Sety, or Mother of Seti. During this time, she continued to see apparitions and have out-of-body experiences. In 1935, she separated from her husband and soon after moved to Nazla al-Saman, near the Giza pyramids. She became employed by the Department of Antiquities as secretary and draughtswoman. During this time, she became the topic of village gossip, as she made frequent offerings to the ancient Egyptian gods. However, she was also respected for her honesty and not hiding her true faith. She was also known for being respectful of other religious observances, fasting with Muslims during Ramadan, and celebrating Christmas with Christians. Sadly, the project she had been employed by was terminated in 1956. She was then offered a well-paid job in the Cairo Records Office or a low-wage position in Abydos as draughtwoman. She chose the latter, explaining that Seti I approved and the wheel of faith was turning, and this would be a time of testing. If she was chaste now, she would undo Bentreshit's ancient sin. Bentreshit was a child priestess of Osiris, and who Dorothy believed she was reincarnated from. When Dorothy was very young, she reported nighttime visitations from Hora, who slowly dictated the story of her past life as Bentreshit during a 12-month period. The story was 70 pages of cursive hieroglyphic text describing the life of a young woman. Bentreshit, or Harp of Joy, was born to humble origins, her mother a vegetable seller and her father a soldier. At age 3, her mother died and she was placed in the temple of Koma Sultan because her father couldn't afford her. There she was raised to be a priestess. At age 12, the high priest asked if she wanted to go into the world or stay as a consecrated virgin. Probably not entirely understanding and having no other viable option, she chose to stay and took the vows. 2 years later, Seti I visited the garden in Abydos to see the site of a new temple to be dedicated to the god Osiris. Finding the young Bentreshit in the garden, the two began to talk. Despite the age difference, it was apparent that there was some kind of attraction that could not be denied. Over the next several weeks, the pair met in secrecy until the pharaoh was called away. During his absence, it became clear that Bentreshit was pregnant. Because she had vowed herself as a priestess, she was regarded as temple property and forbidden to any man. Once brought to the attention of the high priest, she admitted she had taken a lover, but would not name him. She learned that both would be punished by the same public humiliation and death. Rather than betray her lover, who would then face certain death, she committed suicide. Seti I returned to Abydos and was devastated to learn of Bentreshit's death and vowed to never forget her. Fast forward 3,000 years. Dorothy claimed the spirit of Seti I came to her one night and explained he had been taught to take life force, chi, and fashion a body to use. He also explained this would cause her life to be shortened, but she insisted. From then on, most every night, Seti would visit Dorothy as flesh and blood man she could see, touch, and make love with. His vow was true. He never forgot her. In 1956, upon returning to Abydos and taking the lesser of the two jobs offered, Dorothy was told by Seti I that if she was chaste for the remaining days of Dorothy's life, she would undo Bentreshit's ancient sin, and if she failed, their spirits would never, ever come together again in any lifetime or dimension. For the remaining 24 years of her life, she worked at Abydos, helping Egyptologists uncover mystery after mystery, including the garden that she claims to have met her past love. Omm Sety, or Dorothy, often described the Temple of Seti as entering a time machine where past becomes present and the modern mind has difficulty understanding a world where magic is accepted. With several more visits from her love, including a ritual he performed consecrating her final home, we can rest easy knowing Omm Sety, or Bentreshit, seems to have completed her task, remained chaste the remainder of her life, and thus paid retribution for her ancient sin. It's nice to think that right now, somewhere in the world, the reincarnations of Pharaoh Seti I and Bentreshit are happily holding hands and sharing another life as soulmates.